Annyeong, it's Mikey here, and today I'm coming to you guys with a keyboard video on my Mikey Text channel. And we have to thank Epomaker. So they sent me out two boards. We're going to start with the QK108, and we're going to be doing a review, kind of like the style that I normally do with the Mikey Types channel. But as I was mentioning before, right, I'm trying to move more of the pre-built and stuff like that to this channel, where I'm going to be focusing on more desk setups, gaming, things like that. And what better to start with than an Epomaker board, which Epomaker luckily was willing to work with me on this newest channel, and it's been awesome to actually get the chance to do this and be able to kind of really focus more on the rebranding. So let's see what this board is like. Let's open it up, do unboxing, and of course see what we can do to make it even better if we have to. So let's go right into it, but please make sure to like and subscribe. Now, starting off with the unboxing of the QK108. Thank you again, Epomaker, for sending me this out. So right away, we're going to go and see the accessories, and you'll notice here that you get some extra keycaps for Mac users, and you also get some extra switches. Now, as you can see here, I actually got the version with the silent switches, so I'll have to do a little bit of a different way to show you guys the different switch sound that you can get with this board. Now, you do get a braided cable, which is awesome, and a keycap puller, switch puller, so it's nice to see that Epomaker is actually upgrading the cables for not just the more high-end boards. I would say high-end, but really Epomaker boards are all around the same price. Even the plastic and the aluminum boards are kind of similar in price range. Now, the board itself, I have to admit, does look like a great design. It is more of a retro feel design aspect, and I think overall I do like what it's looking like and the colors they have provided. So there's only one color for this board though, and this is it. So it's a bit of a retro board, and you can see here it does have some flex in terms of the board itself with the plastic, and the thing weighs about 1.1 kilos. But let's go hear a sound test. And I do have to apologize to you guys because I actually did record the teardown portion, but unfortunately my camera for some reason actually shut off in between, which was really bad. So not great that this happened, and let me show you guys kind of what I did. So you have to remove 4 screws in terms of the board, and then there's still latches you still have to remove after with a tool. So keep in mind that even though the screws are taken out, this doesn't mean that you can easily just take it apart. You still should use a tool to actually take off the latches, and of course get the cables off if you want to do any modding. And as you can see there, it is gasket mounting with the top case with the bottom, and overall the top case does have some flex to it. I mean, it is a little bit of a thin plastic. It's ABS plastic, and as you saw there, that is a silicone gasket mounting. The back of the PCB foam is actually taped, and I really don't like it. Sometimes it's really difficult to take off, and in general, I'm not a big fan of how they do that. As you can see here, the PCB is actually not flex cut. The plate though is, so it's a PC plate and it is flex cut, but the PCB is not, which I'm kind of surprised they went that route. So maybe there's some kind of change happening in terms of the market now. Now, the PC plate actually came out to be millimeters, 1.1, 1.2, and the PCB also is coming out at the 1.2 millimeters. So even though it's non-flex cut, it's still 1.2, so it's still going to be a thin PCB comparatively. Now you do get plate mounted stabilizers, and they're pretty decently lubed. So the plate mount stabilizers, I feel like Epomakers has done a pretty good job in terms of lubing them. There's quite a lot of lube in there, so I don't think I'll actually have to mod them at all. But if I give you guys a little bit of like a closer look just to see what it looks like, it is going to be pretty decently lubed. Sorry that like the camera's not actually fully catching it, but they did a good job. Now, in terms of the modding, sorry, again, my camera for some reason, again, shut off during the recording for this, but the battery is going to be two 4,000 milliamp hour batteries. So on the bottom, it has a silicone foam, which is really cool for dampening. And then you have 8,000 milliamp hours in total. So two 4,000 milliamp hours. So this thing has quite a decent amount of dampening, and I'm going to do a 2-layer tape mod because I think 2 layers is going to be enough to kind of test to see what this is like. You can also see that the switches for the different modes, like the Windows Mac, Bluetooth 2.4, and overall you do get a USB dongle slot as well. So that's something nice to have. I think in general, all boards that are larger in size should just have a spot for the USB dongle because it's so easy to lose them. And honestly, I've lost some before too. Now, as you can see here, this is how I put it back together. I just put on the latches all sides, and then I'm going to screw in the screw. One thing to note though is, I think as a con of this board, is the USB dongle, when you have the angled foot, like the feet up and outwards, can easily fall out. So that's not a great thing. And I also did modify the spacebar, but let me give a sound test. So the QK108, one of my thoughts in terms of after we did like the unboxing sound test is, honestly, I was surprised. I didn't think that they'd send me the like full-on silent switch version, so definitely was surprised to get a full silent. Of course, I gave you guys a bit of a sound test with like a actual switch, one of the, like the stereo switches specifically, so you guys can kind of get an idea of what it would sound like with sound switches, switches that can be a little bit thockier with this board. Overall, I think Epomaker is doing a better job in terms of making better boards. Sometimes I know they do like a lot of small change and then doing the same board again. I think this time around it felt a little bit different, and I think the build quality feels a little bit better too comparatively from previous boards. I really hope that they keep improving, and hopefully they also improve their like customer service and all things like that, because at the end of the day, they are one of the larger like budget board brands out there, and I know a lot of people look at their stuff, so it would be nice to see them like really improve it, make better boards and still affordable, but also provide the right service. Now, we're gonna have to really go more in depth with this in terms of the review, see what the board is like, software, all those things. So let's go right into that. Now to really go into the board itself. So overall, what do I think and what does it sound like? one thing I was quite surprised with in terms of this is compared to some of the other plastic boards out there, the board actually didn't have like too much of the plastic pinging, but had a little bit more of a thud to it, kind of showing like the density of the plastic. So pretty good in terms of that. Now the volume rocker does shake, and the volume knob doesn't actually have as much grooves in it, so like you don't get a lot of the movement like feel per movement of the volume knob. So it's quite smooth there. So some people might like it, some people might not. If you actually like more of like a tactile knob that really you can feel each single notch, this one you don't really get that as much. Now the screen itself is supposed to be a mini LED. It's kind of interesting in terms of the screen, but it doesn't work unless it's plugged into a computer. So like unless it's connected or something, it won't really show anything else. It's really confusing of kind of how to use it. I tried to find like the functions keys to move it around and switch the screen at all, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way. It has to be connected and then you can do stuff there. So we're gonna have to really go into the software later just to see how that works and what it's like. Overall, I have to admit that I did appreciate what they did with this. Like when you consider a budget board, Epomaker boards are pretty decent. And of course, we're gonna have to really see how silent the silent switches are, because when you do a sound test, it's gonna be very different. The mic is close, but as you can see here, 30 decibels is like the normal, like silent, nothing going on with just my fans around. Then close to the keyboard, you're getting like close to 56 dB. But once you get to the distance of like what you would be from the desk to your face, like when you're sitting, it's going to be like 46 decibels. So you're looking at a very quiet board, and you have to understand most switches come out to be about the 68 to like 70 decibel range in terms of how loud they can be. So you can really see like the minus 20 decibels in terms of how silent they are, and it's quite surprising of how not mushy they are. Usually silent switches are very, very mushy, but these ones didn't feel mushy at all. So that was kind of surprising. I was curious how they did it, so I opened up the switch, and the thing about like these switches is just they're very well lubed. So if you notice, normally I do a stock versus lubed like difference thing. The reason why I didn't do them for this one, and like with the stereo switches or the sea salt silent, is because they come pretty well lubed. And I noticed this a lot with more of the switches lately. I feel like more switches lately from like brands that are coming out with their own boards, you really don't have to lube the switches anymore. It's really impressive how the market's changing, how the game's changing in terms of like how keyboards are made. The stock switches as well, they're coming out well lubed enough that most people really won't have to hand lube them. If ever I get a board that you really do have to hand lube, I will let you guys know. But in terms of this silent switch, you really don't have to lube them at all. They come well done, very smooth, and you're not going to get any like issues with it with how these switches are. And as you could have saw on the stems too, it had this little like clip area where like a bounce. It has that just for the purposes of like really dampening the sound so that it doesn't vibrate too much, and it really does help with the silencing of the switch, and it also helps with the mushiness. So it really removes the mushiness, which I think is very nice. So if you are looking for nice silent switches, these might be a linear one that you might be interested in. Now overall, it's cool with the lighting of the board, and I was hoping that I could figure out with looking at more things and trying different combinations with the function keys, but overall, I have to admit that even with like lighting coming on, you can see how the backlighting is quite bright. And I was just playing around to see like if I can make changes with the screen and other aspects of the board. So when you do press the FNQWE, those are for Bluetooth, you actually will have a red light going off by the screen. So instead of normally how you get the so-called, Bluetooth 1, Bluetooth 2, Bluetooth 3, it's actually all related to the specific lighting by the screen. So like green is going to be 1, red for W for 2, and then you'll get the different colors by the screen. So that's pretty cool in terms of that. Though I really do wish though that, you could change the screen and stuff without having it connected, things like that. It would have been nice to see like the ability to do so. So again, the screen on this board kind of seemed a little bit of a gimmick overall and didn't work too well for what I was hoping it would do compared to like say other screens I've tried. And overall the switches on the top, like with the USB port in the middle, is quite nice to have in terms of design, and accessibility is really like top notch for that. Now as you can see here with the backlighting, this thing has very bright backlighting, like very, very bright. You do have many different colors that you can go through, so different like color aspects that you wanted to do. So like the rainbows and, you know, the moving lights, all these things that you can choose from just pressing function and the tab key, not the tab key, sorry, the slash key. So by doing that, you can really get the different lightings, which is really cool in terms of this board, and it is so bright. Now, of course, going into like the pricing. So going into the pricing of the board, you're looking at $99.99. So it's not as budget as I thought it might be for a full-size board in terms of a plastic base, but it's still technically within the budget range. Now you do have VIA support, which is going to be really cool. I do like how Epomaker does that because, to be honest, a lot of the softwares that they used previously were just not great. It is a full-size board, so it's not like an 1800 layout. You get everything. It's very, very long, of course, in terms of your desk, but not too bad. For those that like number pads and like using the keys in the middle, like the insert, print screen, things like that, you have access to that. It does have 8,000 mAh battery, does have 1,000 polling rate. It's an ABS plastic case. You do get the different dampenings, which I have to admit, this has more dampening than the previous ones that I've tried, like the QK108, which I'll compare to a bit later. You do have a PC plate, and, you know, overall, not too bad in terms of the board. Now, I think though, like, Epomaker does a lot of, I would say, like redoing boards, kind of adding small things and then releasing a new board, which I kind of wish that maybe that would reduce a little bit, because it would just be nice to have something simple going on first and then release something afterwards. Otherwise, it's just too many boards coming out at the same time. Now, syncing the time with this app that they have for the screen, like we can put in GIFs and whatnot, doesn't really work. I tried syncing it up, and for some reason I couldn't get the proper time. It just wasn't working for me. And for some reason, like, it kept coming out to be a different time, even though like my time was 8:15 at the time. No, this one was like showing up as on the screen itself like 16:15. It was a bit weird. And the JSON file. So we went to VIA, tried to load the JSON file. I downloaded it, you know, make sure to move it over into the VIA folder in which I actually keep all my JSON files. And there was a weird issue where it wasn't working. I'm not sure why it wasn't working, but for some reason the VIA wasn't working for the QK108, which was a little bit weird and off. So this is something that's kind of concerning. I hope Epomaker really sees this video and can make the fixes, because no matter what I tried, I could not get it to work. And that's not good, because you want it to work. Now, of course, doing the keyboard inspector testing, you do get 1,000 hertz. And when I did try gaming with it, it was fine. You're not going to get like Hall effect gaming levels and stuff like that, but it's pretty decent. So the next thing we're going to do is do a comparison from other boards. So let's go into really comparing the boards now in terms of the specs and everything. So we're looking at the QK108, which is going to be $100 USD, right? You have 8,000 mAh battery, you have VIA, questionable VIA support, and you do have a screen, you do have a volume knob, and it is a full size board, not a 1800 or like a compact full size board. Now we have the Galaxy 100 Lite, which is technically a compact full size, so you do get a 1800 layout, and you get 2 different colors. You also get 2 different switch types, which I would say the Wisteria is a little bit better, but it's going to be $93.49. To be fair, it's on sale. Normally it was past $100. It's on a sale price at the moment. The Yunzi AL98 is also another aluminum board, and it's 8,000 mAh battery, also via, and it's going to be over 100, like it's $112. So it's kind of hard to really say, is the QK108 really worth it? Because even the Epomaker TH108, which is a full-size board, plastic, no screen, no volume knob, VIA support as well, has the 2 very similar switches, and it has actually a bigger battery. It's got 10,000 mAh. It's cheaper. And the Ola FO108 is also cheaper. It's a full size, and it has many different colors. It has a decent switch, it has 8,000 mAh battery, and it has a screen and volume knob as well. Now you also have the ACO 5098B, which is a 1800 layout. It's going to be more pricey though, and you're missing a lot of the keys because of the screen right there, but it also has a screen and has a volume knob. So is the QK108 in a very good spot? Honestly speaking, I think it's a little bit hard to justify, only because the other boards that may be older are priced a little bit better. And overall, the Galaxy 100 Lite is just such a good deal with an aluminum board. It sounds good. It's got the aluminum case. Like, I mean, if you wanted something more portable that's a little bit lighter, yes, the plastic boards would probably be better. I would say, honestly, the TH108 is probably your best deal. It's like $20 cheaper, and it still has a very good sound, and it's a full size. So I think the QK108, unless you really want the screen and the volume knob, probably not the best choice. Final thoughts. If you're looking for something that's a little bit lighter to carry on for work purposes, and like you wanted that full size, like actual full size, you know how there's a 98%, which is more of a compact full size board. This one's an actual full size, and if you're using it for work in the office, I think this is definitely can be something that you might actually enjoy using, especially with the silent switches, because you're not going to bother anyone. I actually enjoyed these silent switches. They felt quite nice to use. It has a little bit of feedback and has less mushiness, which is really cool. Usually silent switches that I've tried has like a mush to it. These ones, the mush was definitely a lot less than most of the other silent switches I've tried. So that's really cool. You can always go check it out in the links in the description. I'll have it there for you. Go check it out from Epomaker or like the Amazon links. And hopefully, there's going to be some sales going on so you can save some money on that as well. I'll have to catch you guys next time, but please go check out the other videos I got. And I'd love to hear, like, what are the things you'd love to see in this channel.